Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for today's MobileCause webinar, Level Up Your Virtual Fundraiser, Strategies to Reach Your Annual Event Goals. Virtual events have been subbing for in-person fundraisers for several months now, and with social distancing measures still in place, the trend is only gaining momentum. What we've learned during this time is that it is possible for nonprofits to not only plan and execute a virtual fundraising event that is a hit with their audience, but also reach or even exceed their previous in person fundraising goals. Well, today we have two nonprofits who have accomplished just that. They will share how their organizations were created, managed, and executed their own virtual fundraising events that help them increase engagement, expand their community, and bring in more revenue with less overhead costs. Now, before we get started, please note we welcome your participation and we're here to answer your questions. So please submit them into the questions box on your GoToWebinar control panel. We have fundraising experts behind the scenes to answer questions during the webinar. And at the end, we will also have an open Q&A session with our presenters for any additional questions. Now, we hope you really enjoyed today's presentation. And as a quick reminder, we will be sending out the recording and the slides to all our registrants afterwards. Now, today's webinar is presented by MobileCause, and MobileCause understands the everyday challenges nonprofits face, constantly confronted with limited resources, yet still expected to expand your impact. You shouldn't have to face these challenges alone, and that's why MobileCause offers more than comprehensive fundraising software. We also provide one-on-one strategy from dedicated fundraising specialists and have the industry's best support team ready to provide assistance 24/7. At MobileCause, we're just as committed to your cause as you are, and together we can grow your nonprofit like never before.
Now, let me introduce you to our terrific presenters. Maribeth Zaccaro is a development specialist for the Courage Kenny Rehabilitation Institute, a nonprofit dedicated to delivering comprehensive, person-centered rehabilitation throughout life. She hails from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and has worked in development for nearly 4 years, and previously worked as a development specialist for Minnesota's largest food bank, Second Harvest Heartland. She is dedicated to helping nonprofits expand their reach, grow their donor base, and raise crucial funds for those in need. Christopher Hartley is the Deputy Director of Stewardship and Development for the Unitarian Universalist Association, the central organization for the Unitarian Universalist religious movement in the United States. Christopher has significant management and operational experience in healthcare, higher education, and social service sectors. Lindsay Himple is a digital fundraising strategist with MobileCause, where she works one-on-one with nonprofits to maximize their fundraising campaign success. She creates and sets up campaigns, provides fundraising and donor engagement strategies, and creates supportive communication and promotional tools. Lindsay's work has enabled hundreds of MobileCause customers to successfully accelerate and increase their fundraising and engagement efforts. I'm Scott Couchman, the training manager at MobileCause. Now, today we have a great agenda for you, chock full of first-hand insights, helpful takeaways, and creative ideas. First, we'll hear from our two guests on how their nonprofits created and held their own exciting virtual events that helped them meet their annual goals. Then we'll share other examples of successful virtual events, plus key strategies you can use in your own virtual fundraising efforts. All right, before we begin discussing how to level up your virtual fundraiser, we have a quick poll question for everyone.
With this one, it may take a second or two for it to show up on your screen, but so basically what it is have you hosted a virtual fundraising event in 2020? And our choices are 1, yes, it was a success. 2, yes, and we are ready to improve our results. 3, no, but we're planning one. 4, no, but we're thinking about it. And 5, no, we are hoping we don't need to. So it should be live now. It looks like we are getting numbers coming in. If for any reason you're not seeing it, go ahead and put it in the questions if you're answering the questions there. Otherwise, it should be live for you, and we'll see what these results are coming in. All right, looks like we're give it another couple of seconds here. All right, looks like I've got some good results here. So let me go ahead and close this poll here, and let me take a look at those results here. So it looks like the majority of you are in the no but planning one stage, and no but thinking about it. So it's always good to see. And we got a few, the other ones here. One, I love the people who've had it and had a success and improving results. This is some great information. Great to see where all of you are at or not with holding virtual fundraising events. Well, you know what? I have some good news. Whatever your plans are for current or future virtual events, our webinar today will have some truly helpful tips and ideas for your nonprofit. So let's go ahead and dive into this.
Join me in welcoming Maribeth Zaccaro to start us off by sharing her experience with the Courage Kenny Rehabilitation Institute's annual celebration of courage. Over to you, Maribeth.
Hi, thank you, Scott, and thank you, everyone. Like Scott said, my name is Mary Beth, and I work at the Courage Kenny Foundation. We support the Courage Kenny Rehabilitation Institute. We work with children and adults who have injuries and disabilities of all different kinds. We have locations throughout the Twin Cities, as well as other parts of Minnesota and Western Wisconsin. So we work to maximize the quality of life for these folks and provide rehabilitation throughout their entire lives, whether it's through physical, occupational, speech therapy. We also have other community programs and activities. Our annual event is called the Celebration of Courage event, and this event supports Adaptive Sports and Recreation Department at Courage Kenny. Typically, we work to fund new equipment and scholarship dollars for participants. This year with COVID, we were fundraising for free rental equipment and free virtual programs. So although we wanted to make sure that we let folks know that there is still fundraising that needs to be done, and it is still as important as ever, even though all of our in-person activities have been suspended. There are still many other needs. The typical format of our event is definitely in person, and it has been at the Twins Stadium. So it's exciting to be on the baseball fields, and it is a luncheon that also has a program, and it typically lasts about an hour. We historically have had a goal of $100,000, and we have always met that goal or exceeded that goal depending on any major gifts that have come in. The way we format this event is that it is a free event to attend, and it is open to anyone in the community. We typically just ask that people register to the event so we have a head count and seating charts. And we typically have about 400 to 500 people register to attend. The format is we have MCs and different speakers, as well as a pre-recorded video that features several different athletes out doing their activities. And then towards the end of the event, we have an ask which is made by the board member. And also important to note about this event is that we typically rely on table hosts to draw folks to this event. So our table hosts are people who are great supporters of our foundation and go out there and invite 9 other people to join them at their tables, of people in their networks, whether it's family, friends, co-workers, to join them during this lunchtime event and learn more about our program and hopefully make a contribution. So after the ask is made, we leave pledge cards at every single seat for everyone at the table, and they can fill out their information and their donation amount and put in a check or credit card information or any way that they would like to pay. And then when they leave the event, they drop those off to us and we process those afterwards. This year, we of course had to pivot with COVID. we had it scheduled to be at the beginning of June, but then once early May came and we made the decision that we need to take this event virtual, we did change the date to be a date later in June, so we'd have a little bit more time to plan everything out. And we did not have a virtual platform ahead of this year, so we were looking at a few different options and ended up partnering with MobileCause. And we really liked MobileCause because we liked the look and feel of the website, of how it would look to our donors. And also we liked how we would have so much support and tutorials and a dedicated person to help us make our site and answer any questions that we may have, just because we're so new to it and we had to pivot really fast and get our event up and running. And then we were also super interested in the texting option and be able to use that as a marketing method, which is something that we had never had the chance to do before. So we still requested that our attendees register for this event. It was still a free event, and they still register just like we've done in the past, but it was great because we like to get a feel of how many people are signing up and just to be able to communicate with them before the event and have that good address, email information, just post-event, and then also for marketing and communications next year and in the future. We still followed our same table host method. We reached out to folks who had already committed to being a table host or had been table hosts in the past years and worked with them to make sure that they were still willing to participate virtually. And we also worked with them to register their attendees on the website and just kind of work through the website with them as we were learning. The event program was very similar to the in-person event with our speakers and video and MC and board member. The biggest difference is that while the event was typically 1 hour while in person, we shortened it to be 30 minutes online. We just wanted to keep it digestible and keep people able to keep their attention and have a nice shortened but still very impactful program. We had a lot of follow-up messaging and always linked it back to our MobileCause site. We liked that that site can stay up. So if people missed the event or wanted to share the event out or rewatch it and still make another donation, that they can always go back to our event and see the program recorded there. And we can keep that open for as long as we would like. Our event program, just to dive a little bit deeper into that, we had our speakers and MC already booked for the event. And we had already done some filming in the beginning of the year for our winter sports. We did end up cutting out one or not being able to film one person because of COVID, and that actually did end up helping us since we wanted to reduce the time anyway of the event. So everything was pre-recorded in a studio, and this was filmed about a week and a half before our event. There was our MCs were in studio, and then we also had some remote aspects. So some people made short little cell phone clips, and then we also had some Zoom calls. So it was a mixture of both, and we had our production company edit together. And we really wanted to make this program feel live, and just with the MCs interacting with each other and the Zoom calls and everything like that, many people did tell us that it did feel live. And then we premiered it on YouTube and had a live chat there, and that streamed to our event page. And then we also had a Facebook watch party, and the premiere and the countdown on that also helped with making it feel live. And then people could either join our watch party on Facebook, or they could create their own watch parties from our live streamed video. For promotion, we sent out many emails with both the date change and the new format, just to make sure people really realized that we were doing it online and had a new date and weren't confused that we were having something in person. Typically, we would send out a save the date postcard and an invitation postcard. And this year we just sent out a postcard telling people about the event moving online and asking them to register. We were heavy on social media posts, and we posted to Instagram, Twitter, Facebook many times leading up to the event with different client stories, and we're trying to build on the energy of testimonials and why people support the event and what to expect at this year's event. We also continued our special one-on-one communication with our table hosts, providing them sample language in emails and providing them instructions on how to host their own Zoom parties or Facebook watch parties, or how to register their guests, or anything that they needed help with. We also, again, were very eager to try out the new texting, which we had never been able to do before. And we sent out 4 text messages, 2 leading up to the event and then 2 on the event. And we sent this out to both folks who had registered and then also to our whole invite list that we get from our database. So it was exciting to be able to use this new method of reaching out to people. Our event, so our goal we kept at $100,000, which was our goal for the past couple of years. When COVID first started, we thought we might have to reduce it, but we did end up keeping it at that goal, and we were happy that we did, because we were then able to surpass our goal, and we're at about a little over $108,000 right now. We had 324 donors plus 10 sponsors. We had 200 plus views on YouTube, and then plus the additional MobileCause views and the views on Facebook. We know that the numbers are much higher than that. We were excited to bring in many new donors that we wouldn't normally be able to reach. We have many locations in northern Minnesota, or snowbirds that were never able to come home with COVID, or retirees, or just people who are working who can't normally attend the lunchtime event and get out of the office, that were able to join in this event. And we were super close during the event, and then in the days following is actually when we exceeded our goal. So it was nice to be able to still see that online on our site. So overall, we were really pleased with the total raise, and the attendance was only down a little compared to 2019, considering we had to move to a virtual event and change the date so quickly. And while the average gift amount was a little bit lower, we had many more donors this year than previous years. And then, of course, with the reduced overhead, our net total raised was higher than last year and in previous years. We likely also have a way larger reach. We can use this video and website for many other things, and for people who couldn't attend, and continue to promote the website and our fundraising. So again, the net is much better than last year, and we are happy to see that with the reduced cost, we were also able to raise our typical goal amount and make the same great impact on our communities during these times. And that is all I have. So back over to you, Scott.
Thank you, Mary Beth, for your wonderful insights into hosting a successful virtual fundraiser. Now let's turn it over to Christopher Hartley of the Unitarian Universalist Association to hear about their annual General Assembly. Take it away, Christopher.
Great. Thanks, Scott. Great to be with everyone today. And yes, so the Unitarian Universalist Association is the headquarters for United States for the Unitarian Universalist denomination. And we're a decentralized denomination where congregations are self-governed, and the UUA plays more of a supportive role across the country. We get about 2/3 of our income through voluntary contributions that come directly from the congregations, and the remaining third roughly evenly divided between major gifts and small dollar giving, such as direct mail and monthly donors, and a little bit smaller portion then comes from bequests and a few grant-funded programs. So the sort of set the stage for our virtual event this year is back on March 10th. The UUA announced that it was closing its Boston headquarters and that we would all be moving to a work from home mode moving forward. And then 2 days later, on March 12th, the UUA issued an advisory to our congregations recommending that they suspend all in-person gatherings, including Sunday services. So General Assembly, or GA, is our annual convention, and usually has about 3,000 to 4,000 attendees. Each congregation is eligible to send a certain number of voting delegates, and then there are other attendees who come to participate in workshops or meet with affinity groups and so on. The UUA itself really doesn't do much event-based fundraising, but GA is the one time of year where we have a large captive audience, and so we try and take advantage of that opportunity. Typically, there's 3 to 4 special collections held each year, and the final Sunday worship collection is always dedicated to a small local nonprofit located in the host city that we are in for that year. And we started using MobileCause for the text-to-give functionality at our 2015 General Convention in Portland, Oregon, and have been using it every year since. And we find that we get about 18 to 20% participation through the text-to-give option year over year. For this year, as we went to work from home mode in mid-March, immediately the question was what's going to happen with General Assembly, which was scheduled for the end of June. And it wasn't until a month later in mid-April that it was officially announced that GA would be 100% virtual. And so early on, we began working with MobileCause to help, and Lindsay to help set up the event page so that we could have a consolidated place where online registrants could just sort of have a one-stop shop location for all of the collections. And we also mailed out a physical form to people in advance, but advising them about what the collections were, how they could give online, and also for the people who never like to give online, there's a return envelope and they could mail in a check, which some people did. So, our biggest worry was as of May 31st, we had only 2,100 registrations, and so we were really worried about how well we were going to do with at the time seemed like a pretty low number. So we were very intent on maximizing and communicating with our registrants about supporting these collections. So from there, so we built the page, we had the mailer go out, we sent out an email, we uploaded all of the registration list into MobileCause as well. Plus we separately sent out an email in advance providing an overview and individual links to both the event page as well as individual donate buttons to each of the MobileCause donate forms. One of the things that we did find with this year, which we didn't anticipate, we sort of assumed that because people would be sitting at their computers watching and participating in General Assembly, that they would all want to donate through their computer. We had provided the text-to-give option, but it was a little bit sort of under the radar. But then we found people furiously typing into the chat boxes in the online portal for GA about, how do we give and what's the text info? So that was a good lesson to carry forward for next time. And also for us, similarly, we even though these events appeared at a set time on the schedule for General Assembly, all of the events where these collections took place were also all pre-recorded. And we provided each group that was responsible for that event with a sample script for the actual ask, as well as a slide that they could put up on screen that, again, reiterated the different ways that people could give. You'll see on this slide, this was what the email that went out mid-GA, again, sort of reminding people how to donate. This was after the first day and the first 2 collections, and the initial response was a little bit weak. And so you'll see, if you see on the screen right above each of the little boxes at the bottom, we told people how many gifts had been received for each collection. And we thought that would resonate more because average person would know whether $10,000 or $30,000 was a good number, but everyone knew that 4,000 people had showed up for GA. So those numbers really began to motivate, and we started to see the gifts really ticking up after that. And so for us, it really worked out well. This ended up being not only our third highest attended GA ever, but we raised almost $100,000 more than we would typically do across these collections in a General Assembly. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact, not just because we had more attendees, but also because we were much more proactive about reaching out to people in advance. We looked at the numbers, and about 9% of our revenue came in online prior to the first day of General Assembly, and about 10% came in after General Assembly had completed. And in fact, the page is still up, and gifts are still trickling in even as recently as yesterday. So we'll probably leave it up through the end of July. Another lesson for us was, again, in an in-person General Assembly, everyone would, give in the moment where each collection was occurring, and we sort of assumed that people would do the same thing online. What we found is quite a few people, once they made their first collection gift, often stayed on the event page and sort of just worked their way through the list. And so you could see in the back end on MobileCause, you could see where 4 gifts from the same person would just come in within a few minutes of each other. And we did hear some feedback that people found that cumbersome to have to keep filling out the form each time. So next year, we'll probably offer like a express donate option where they'll have one form, they put in one amount, and it'll just be preset to say that whatever you give will be evenly divided among all of the collections. And I think with that, I will turn it back to Scott.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Christopher, for all the invaluable information and tips on how you transitioned your very large in-person event into a completely virtual one. Now, as a quick reminder, if you have any questions, you can submit them into the question box on your control panel as we go along. Now, let's hear from fundraising expert Lindsay Himple on strategies to reach your annual event goals.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks again for joining us. I'm so glad that we are able to hear from our guest speakers about their virtual events. And today I want to share a few other virtual event examples and then also dive into 7 strategies that you can use for reaching your annual goals with virtual events. So let's go ahead and just jump right in. The first example I want to look at is Good Shepherd Rehabilitation's Gala in the Garden. So their event was originally a paid sit-down dinner with no ask, and then it transitioned into a virtual event with a few different ways to give. So they offered a few different opportunities for people to make donations, and one was a raffle. So they had many raffle items available, and they sold raffle tickets for that. The other were donation levels. So they had suggested donation levels that people could participate at, as well as a PJ contest. So they did something creative where they incorporated peer-to-peer fundraising and encouraged people to take pictures of their favorite pajamas or slippers, whatever they were wearing while they were tuning in, and upload it into their peer-to-peer fundraising page and encourage their friends and family to vote by donating. So a fun twist that they did there for fundraising. They also pre-recorded their virtual program and debuted the video on a certain date with all of the instructions for how people can participate. And then they kept their different methods of giving, which was the contest, the raffle tickets, and the donation levels, open for a week. They ended with a final closing video at the end of the week, later announcing the winners and the totals raised and the progress and the impact. And overall, they raised $176,000 over. And with the campaign, they had a large influx of new donors from both the peer-to-peer element as well as the text to donate. Another event example is Genesis Community Health. So originally they had planned an in-person dinner, but they pivoted to a virtual live stream where they held a meet and greet with their guest, the HGTV's Boise Boys, and then they streamed the rest of their program too. One fun thing that Genesis did was they also sent gift cards to a local drive-through restaurant to all of the registrants so that the virtual attendees could pick up dinner before tuning in. During their event, they raised over $35,000 and they had a 73% increase in attendees from years previous. They also ultimately ended up grossing more in their in-person dinner. I'm sorry, grossing more than their in-person dinner than they had the previous year with their virtual event. The last event example I want to look at today is Believe Big. So Believe Big changed their annual gala to a fundraising gala, and they shared their program out for individuals to attend. Their program had a great combination of beneficiary testimonies, updates from the research that they're working on, as well as words from staff. They shared out their video on an event page where it was easy for people to not only tune in, but to also make donations. Like you see on the screenshot, they also shared a branded text to donate keyword to encourage them to encourage participants to text to donate throughout the night of the event and help them reach their goal. At their event, they raised over $200,000 and they doubled their previous in-person attendance rate while also increasing their net total raised. So in the slide deck, there are a few links on the slide deck where you can read more about some other event examples as well and how other organizations use creative strategies while pivoting to their virtual events. All right, now that we've looked at a couple examples, I want to talk through a few strategies that you can use during your virtual events to reach your goals. So the first strategy I want to look at is peer-to-peer fundraising. So you can use peer-to-peer in fun ways to engage supporters and boost your overall fundraising totals. Some ideas include a vote by donation for dancers, chefs, dogs, PJs, performance. So very similar to the example that we saw with Good Shepherd Rehabilitation Network. You could have individuals sign up and encourage people to vote for them with peer-to-peer. A lot of organizations will do some type of Dancing with the Stars or live stream performances. So think of creative ways that you may be able to incorporate a voting aspect and donate by voting, vote by donating. Another example is encourage table hosts to fundraise and host watch parties. So during an in-person event, you may have had table hosts and table sponsors, and you can try to utilize any table host in your virtual event by encouraging those people to really serve as ambassadors for your organization, encouraging them to fundraise through peer-to-peer, as well as hold virtual watch parties to encourage more people to join into the event. Another way to use peer-to-peer is to get board members and sponsors involved leading up to the event. So if you have your board and sponsors and they're willing to go out there and share the event, have them sign up with a peer-to-peer page and encourage them to share out with their networks and get people involved as well. And the last item here, allow guests to submit entries to garner votes. So similar to the vote by donation option, you can have people vote by donating, and that may not necessarily be for a specific peer-to-peer fundraising page, but encourage the donations to come by means of voting for a particular item. So there really are a few creative ways that you can weave in peer-to-peer. So think about what may work with your organization. But the next strategy I want to look at is registration. So you can request guests to purchase a ticket or register for your virtual event. Now you do have the opportunity to create a paid ticketing or registration or leave the event free for anyone to attend. Paid tickets boost fundraising and has some exclusivity to it for those who are purchasing, while free tickets will really help to track the registrants and who is attending, even if the event is free. Sometimes if guests are attending for free, they may be motivated to give or give more later, so that's something to also consider. And if you're having a free registration form, it's helpful really to collect this guest information so that you can know who's attending, how many people you can expect, and have that contact information to keep in touch with them leading up into the event and keep them excited about the event. You can consider offering free swag with your tickets and registration. Maybe that's free merch from your organization, or a goodie bag or a swag bag. If you can, include sponsors' products in the actual swag bags and help give them a little promotion. And if you do decide to have free registration for your event, be sure to add the option for people to make an optional donation too. Genesis Community Health, the example that we looked at earlier, their event was free, but they offered an option for people to give while registering, and they ended up raising a large chunk of their funds through that method. Lastly, automate your receipts to include important virtual event details so that your attendees are really clear on how they tune in. Now, just because your event is virtual doesn't mean you shouldn't accept sponsorships. However, you may need to think about some creative ways you can recognize your sponsors. So be sure to promote your sponsors in all of the event materials that you're sharing out. That means including their logos and links to their websites and any emails. Post that on your web page and any specific event pages you may be building. And you may even consider giving them a special shout out on social media leading up into the event. And be sure to actually shout out sponsors during your virtual event. So a cool idea here is I've had a handful of organizations create a short slideshow to present ahead of going live if their attendees were to join early for any reason. And these slideshows highlighted the different sponsors and sponsor levels. So definitely one thing to consider, but also make sure to verbally recognize your sponsors for their support with your event as well. A virtual auction page is something to also consider for your event and would serve as a place where donors can browse and place bids on items and experiences. You can use an online auction software for bidding, and you can also use this to send notices when a supporter is outbid. One of the cool things about online auctions is that they don't have to be limited to the time frame of the event. So you could launch them before the event starts and potentially even keep the auction open for longer, which could help drive more exposure to the different items available, more bidding, and ultimately increase more participants as well. Just make sure to announce the start and end times clearly across all of your communication channels so people know exactly when and how to tune in, and make sure that the links are shared and so people can start making their bids. All right. Another great strategy to implement for your event is text to donate. So text to donate is a way to make giving easy for your donors so that they can give straight from their smartphones. You can create a branded event-aligned keyword and short code and promote your text to donate details widely across all of your channels. You can share this leading up to the event as well as during your event. From the example we see here on the right, the organization shared the keyword as an overlay on their video in the lower third. And that's a great way for people to really visually show people how they can support your organization. So you can consider adding something like that to a video, as well as promoting that ahead of your event. Additionally, during the event, you will want to make a verbal call to action and ask everyone who's watching to take out their phones and text in. Text to donate is a great way for people to feel involved, have them come together, and especially to have them feel engaged as part of something in the virtual event, and allow them to take immediate action by participating in real time. All right. Another really great tool for a virtual event is an event page, or a page to bring all of these awesome details that we have for your event into one convenient place for your donors. So, or supporters. An event page can share a wealth of data about your event, including event details like time, date, how to tune in virtually. It can also include all links to your forms, whether that's a registration, ticketing, or RSVP form. Can also link to your calls to action, like sponsorship levels and details, or potentially text to donate and different suggested donation levels. It can include a section for progress to keep supporters updated on progress towards your goals, and can also just have the ability to link out to other important aspects of your event that you want to share to your supporters. One of the most important things is that you can use the event page to actually embed your pre-recorded video program or your live stream video by bringing it onto the event page. And by doing so, you're making things simple for your donors so that while they're watching the video, they can read more about your organization, donate easily with the click of a button, have the text to donate information, really kind of everything in one place while they're watching the video. So it really serves for a great donor experience from that side of things. And it's also great because you have one single link to promote all the aspects of your event. And this could be during all times of your event. So before your event, during, and after, you'll have that same link that people can continue visiting and become familiar with. And you can update the information that is on that event page to share with your donors at that time. Lastly, you can continue to share your event after it airs. So I know Mary Beth and the Courage Kenny Rehabilitation Institute had good success with that. People visiting the page even after it's streamed to see the video replay and still have the opportunity to participate. So it gives the opportunity for even more people to continue joining in with your organization. Now, one of my favorite things about virtual events is the ability for your organization to reach an even larger audience virtually. So with in-person events, you are able to connect with your donors face-to-face, but you are somewhat limited to who can come because of your physical location and where you are. With virtual events, it could be virtually anyone. So be sure to take advantage of this and really broaden your reach to make sure that you are reaching the largest audience possible. So this could be by promoting broadly and strategically across all of your communication channels. So make sure that you're taking a multi-channel communication approach and sharing on email, through text message, through social media. A lot of organizations will still send paper invites to invite their guests to the event. So make sure you're promoting broadly. You can also consider tagging supporters and sponsors on social media. So by doing so, you're ensuring people are seeing your posts, but then potentially more people, the supporters and sponsors networks, are seeing your post on social media. You can also encourage your network to share your event widely. So kind of similar to the table host idea, if you have ambassadors, people who are close to your organization, they're super excited to attend, ask them to share it out, have their friends join in with them as well. Also be sure to share your text to donate details in post and communications. So if you have that branded keyword, take advantage of it. Don't just share it on the video, but use it in all of your pre and post event communications, as well as increase engagement with photos, impact stats, and hashtags on social media. So allow people to become part of the conversation with the virtual event, encourage them to post photos like the PJ contest that one organization did, or encourage them to have hashtags, and then your organization also continue to share those photos, impact stats, and hashtags on your own social media so people can see exactly what's going on. So really use all of the digital tools to extend the audience you're reaching out to, and use the event to celebrate your new donors as well as your returning donors who end up tuning in to your virtual event. And with that, I'm going to pass things back to Scott.
Thank you, Maribeth, Christopher, and Lindsay for sharing your insights and expertise with us today. We hope everyone here is inspired to start incorporating these strategies into your own virtual fundraising events so that you can achieve tremendous results. Now, before we go ahead and jump into our Q&A, let's ask another quick question.
Are you interested in learning more? Our choices are, to learn more about virtual events with MobileCause, just more information on MobileCause software, and one-on-one consultation with MobileCause. So any of those that you're interested in, I'll go ahead and close the poll now. So with that one, let's jump into our live Q&A session where we answer some of the very important questions you sent us about fundraising and virtual events. So please, again, feel free to submit any others as we go along. And so first question here. Okay, so the first question is for Maribeth. What is the biggest lesson you learned in turning your in-person event into a virtual one?
Yeah, I think there's probably a few. We wish we had, or we just start as early as possible in making decisions and sticking to those decisions as far as your date and what website you're going to use and what you're going to do. And then also providing clear instructions to people on how to make the most of the website. And then I think since we have the advantage virtually to reach as many people as possible and many more people than we were able to before, just to broadcast to it as many networks as possible. We had different departments, our sport and recs department reaching out to volunteers and participants and people just who may have not, wouldn't have attended the event in the past. So just to do that as much as possible, and then just stay mission focused as possible and always bring it back to the mission and remind folks as to why the mission is more important than ever during these times.
Okay, great, thank you. So next one here is for Christopher. What was the most challenging part of transitioning such a large event to a solely virtual one?
Well, to start with, unlike, certainly Maribeth's example and a lot of fundraising events, General Assembly is not inherently a fundraising event. It's a convention of which there are fundraising components. So it's an event that our development office doesn't have a lot of direct control over. And the combination of switching to all virtual and then the huge surge of last minute registrations meant that our IT team was maxed out, sort of retooling the online portal that everyone would use. And so none of us saw what the portal would look like or how it would function until a few days before GA went live. So we were, on the one hand, it was very fortunate that we could build the event page through MobileCause very independently and not have to be reliant on the portal that was going to be used. And then we were able to switch people over, but it made it a little of a knuckle biter to not know what all of our users were going to see and how it would look on the screen for their initial access. The other thing I would say is that you just can't over communicate how to do all of this, because as I said earlier, even with all of our communications, people were still bombarding the chat room the first day, asking how they could make a gift.
Okay. All right, great. Okay, so I have one here for Maribeth. Did you use the same theme for your virtual event, or did you change that around?
Is that the fundraising focus, or what do you mean by that?
Yeah, the fundraising.
Yeah, so we have had, in the past 7 years, I believe we have had different fundraising focuses for different departments within our organization, but the past 3 years or so, it has been the sports and rec department, and they still have the strongest need, so we kept it the same as it has been the past 3 years. And they have such a devoted audience too, and people really attached to the mission that we knew it would be a good opportunity to rely on those folks for a virtual event.
Okay, great. All right, so next question here is for Lindsay. So how soon before a live stream virtual event do you recommend promoting and encouraging registration?
Yeah, good question. And I think Mary Beth may have alluded to this a little bit earlier too, but just start sharing it out early if you can. So I know a lot of organizations are pivoting and making a lot of different changes, but especially as we approach fall fundraising, starting registration early really allows you to begin sharing to as many people as possible and collecting that data so that you can know who's attending your event, get some numbers, as well as have that attendee information so that you can continue to communicate with them and get excited. So if you have an upcoming event this year, I recommend starting as soon as possible, just so you have that time to reach out to as many people. If I had to put a time frame on it, I would say at least 2 to 3 months ahead of your event so you can begin promotions, if not sooner.
All right, great. So next one here is for Christopher. Are there any aspects of this year's virtual event that you plan on carrying forward into the future for in-person events?
Yes, we will definitely continue to do the advanced promotion and the emails and text reminders through GA. Even if we go, when you're in an in-person event, in the moment the collection is happening, maybe half of the total registration group is actually in the room. And so if you don't get them in that 10 or 15 minutes of the collection, you've lost their gift. But being all virtual and being able to send out these reminders, allowed us to get many more of our attendees to actually support our various collections.
All right, great. All right, so next question here is for Lindsay. Working with clients that ask for registration, how do you monitor that? And did many people, quote unquote, attend without registering first?
Good question. So registration, so by creating a registration form, you really have the ability to start collecting that donor information so that you have it in your reporting. So you have that donor data to communicate with them. So it may be a little bit hard to know exactly who is attending from that list, but using that data to really drive that communication pre, post, and after the event so that these people are indicating that they're the most interested in the event, what you're doing, your organization's impact. So keeping that in mind as you're communicating with them. And then ultimately, especially if you have a free event, you may have people that join in that didn't register, and that's fine too. As long as if they're seeing the page, making sure that you're trying to capture their attention and giving the text to donate option so that they can become a participant of your organization as well.
All right, thank you.
I answered that right.
We've come to the conclusion of our Q&A. Now, before we leave, if you are interested in discovering how MobileCause can help maximize your fundraising efforts so that you can raise more with less time and effort, or if you'd like to schedule a personalized one-on-one demo to see how MobileCause can help grow your nonprofit, please fill out the post-webinar survey. Thank you again for attending today, and best of luck to you in all of your fundraising efforts. We look forward to seeing you again at next month's live webinar. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day, everyone.